welcome everyone to our 2025 Frank's Finest preseason top players list for Section 1A football. I'm your host, Frank Langella. Welcome. If you're new here, we're going to be revealing our top preseason players, which is about 11 to 13 players on the offensive side and the defensive side. And the criteria that we use, guys, is as follows. The first thing is film. Film is the biggest thing that we look at, something we watch a ton of. The second thing is coaches' opinions. We reach out to the coaches and ask them for their opinions on players, which come into our criteria as well. And finally, stats. The stats are not as big as the first two, but it's still an important indicator as well for the success the player had. So this is always a tough one for me. It's exciting, but also I hate it because you have to make some tough decisions, and some people will agree with, some they will not. This is our opinion. And for those that disagree, if that motivates you to push forward, because a lot can change in a football season, right? So again, appreciate you guys as always. And in my opinion, these young athletes deserve this spot in our list. But before we kind of continue with it, just a couple quick things, guys. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, hit that sub button if you haven't already. It really does help this video and help the channel. And also for future content that comes to the channel. And also, if you're thinking of helping the group even further, think about joining our Patreon. There's a free membership, which you'll get some updates on future content and announcements, and you can speak to us directly. And there's paid members, which also get some premium content, exclusive content as the season goes along. It also helps support our group in continuing to grow. So that'll be in the description, guys. But let's dive into our list, and we'll start on the offensive side. And one more quick note is that we try not to have a lot of these players are two-way players of the best athletes. If you qualify for one, we try not to hand out more than one position unless that position you are far and beyond your peers. So with that, let's start at the quarterback spot. And this one was a tough decision for us this year because, again, there's a lot of backs, there's a lot of defensive players, there's more spots open. But for quarterback, there's just one spot. And there's quite a few quarterbacks that ran into this category. Two of them that really stood out to me, which was our final two, which made it really difficult. And I'll just say it's between Rye and Clarkstown North. And we decided to go with Carson Boone Miller, the senior from Rye, as our quarterback for Frank's Finest for Section 1A. And tough decision, but at the end of the day, I do feel like this was the correct one. And this young man at 6'2", 175 pounds, completed 69% of his passes last year, almost 2,300 yards passing and 24 touchdowns. Also ran for almost 600 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he had such a fantastic year. Explosive football player. We all know about his ability to run, right? As the season got underway, those design quarterback run, those scramble drills, his ability to keep the play going. You saw that all year. And he was really good at it, but he really excelled off of the play action game. The rollouts, the design play action, and he showed the ability to attack defenses down the field with his deep ball and the intermediate throws. As the season went along, you did see sometimes he'd force things, but he was starting to check down a little bit more, right? He was starting to be smarter with the football. But boy, his ability to hit the big play, his ability to keep the play alive was really fantastic. And to me, I think Carson Boone Miller deserves the spot on this list for our Frank's Finest quarterback for 1A. Next up, let's do the backs. And this is a mix between running backs, wide receivers, tight ends in this list. And we'll start off with running back Trey Ficara, the senior from Brewster, who got a spot on this list. 5'10", about 180 pounds, versatile back. Again, his biggest strengths are kind of these C-gap to outside runs, counters, but I really like his ability to be a receiver. This is a young man that you can run routes out of the backfield for and also line him up at wide receiver, and they did. They put him out as a single wide receiver. He is a matchup nightmare for people. He was difficult to cover for defensive backs. This is a young man who's a solid route runner, he's very elusive in open space, soft hands, and again, an impressive player because you could put him in that backfield and he runs hard. So this is a versatile football player for Brewster. He was a real spark plug for that offense last year, and he deserves a spot on this list. Next up, let's talk about running back Nate Maskell, the senior from Mayapack. He gets a spot on this list as well. Young man, 5'11", 180 pounds, fast, explosive are the two things that really came out to me and was an integral part of that offense before his injury. And he's another versatile guy. You line him up in the backfield, he runs out of the eye. You also line him up as a receiver, and you know he can also make plays at there. He's an explosive guy that defenses really have to account for at all times because of how important he is for that offense, and he deserves a spot on this list. Next up, we'll talk about running back Aiel Gabai, the senior from Clarkstown North. And this young man, 5'10", and I really like his ability to impact you multiple ways. He'll impact you as a runner. He ran for over 500 yards. As a receiver, he also had receiving touchdowns and can run routes out of the backfield. Also as a returner. I mean, this young man had over 1,300 total yards last year. And what he excels at as a runner, he's patient, right? He lets blockers develop. He'll hit the hole hard. Once he gets to that second level, shows the ability to make people miss. I really just love the versatility this young man has, and has made plays in multiple facets, offensively and in special teams, and he deserves a spot. Let's hit a couple receivers now, and then I do think this class has some real top-end receivers, and the first one up we have to talk about is Dean Palazzolo, the senior from Somers. This young man, again, not a very big guy at 5'9", but he is absolutely explosive. This is a guy that every game I watched as Somers, you had a defensive coordinator had to have a game plan for him. Whether he lines up as a single receiver or he lines up as a slot, they motion him. They could put him in the backfield and hand him the ball on some outside runs. He is so elusive, very difficult to keep in front of you with his straight line speed. And his ability to line up in multiple different spots, his ability to attack you vertically, but also in the short game where you just throw him the ball on some quick screens and he can break it loose. I mean, this is someone who's fast, elusive, and what's underrated to me about him, again, I mentioned he's not a very big guy, but he's got great body control. He's got good hands. He can make catches through contact. He makes big time plays in clutch moments. This is one of the best players in the section, and an absolute threat for every defense that comes out there that you have to have. I think not just one game plan, you have to have an adjustment if that game plan doesn't work. That's how dynamic this young man is, and he obviously deserves a spot on this list. Next receiver, I want to talk about Tyler Galante, the senior from Yorktown. And, you know, you have guys like Dean Palazzolo, who takes a ton of spotlight for obvious reasons. People don't realize Tyler Galante had a tremendous year at the receiver spot last year. 720 yards receiving, 11 touchdowns, school records he broke. And this is another guy who impacts you. He's a dynamic two-way player, but this is a guy who can impact you from an offensive standpoint multiple ways. You can line him up in the backfield, like I mentioned, motion him out of the backfield, run routes out of the backfield, put him in the slot, which I think that's where he really excels at. Wherever there's space, this is a guy who can create a ton of separation with his route running and his ability to stretch the field because he's explosive, and he's also a really strong returner. And I like his toughness. He has another kid with good body control, even though he's not huge, but he'll make catches through contact. He knows where he is on the field with regards to the sideline. He also has a very good offensive coordinator that maps him some favorable matchups for him, and he takes advantage of that. And he definitely deserves a spot on this list. And now to wrap it up, guys, the last wide receiver, Henry Shoemaker, the senior from Rye. My apologies. And this young man has all the tools. 6'4", 185 pounds. Big target, right? Large catch radius, and another guy that has really good straight line speed. This is someone who can really create separation. There's been guys who are trying to press him at the line of scrimmage. He shows the strength that he can battle through that press. And then guys who play off coverage, if they don't slow him down, that buildup of speed he has really generates a lot of pressure on the defense, keep him in front of him. And he really tortured defenses in the deep ball. Again, shows nice hands as well. This is a well-rounded wide receiver, and he's got the size and the tools that he can be that outside guy and match up against press coverage, some bigger corners, and then the smaller guys. Again, he has that large catch radius and that speed that he can generate a lot of separation. and he obviously deserves a spot on this list. Let's move to the offensive lineman now. And first one up, I want to talk about offensive tackle King Mercer, the senior from Carmel. He deserves a spot on this list. 6'4", 265 pounds, powerful hands and finisher. I mean, he really can bury you. And what I like is that he shows that athleticism he can pull, right? He can do some counter pulling and trapping. He can do sweep pulls that get to the outside, and he has the feet to block these second-level defenders in space. And when he gets his hands on it, he's absolutely going to crush you. So I really love his finishing power. This is one of the better offensive linemen. When he's locked in, there's not many better offensive linemen in the class, and he deserves a spot on this list. Next up, let's talk about offensive lineman Karsten Steinman, the senior from Rye. 6 feet, 215 pounds, not a massive offensive lineman, but I tell you what, I really like, the athleticism at the guard spot for this young man. He held up versus some of the bigger defensive linemen in the run game, really excels at pulling and blocking in space. Again, some of these faster defenders, he can lock his hands in and seal them off. And I do like when he gets to that second level, he's not uncomfortable. Some of these linemen really don't know how to slow down, how to control their bodies. He's not one of them. He's someone who feels comfortable in space, did a really solid job. He's one of the few returning linemen that Rye has, and he performed very well last year, and he absolutely deserves a spot on this list. Next up, let's talk about offensive lineman Kyle Runk, the senior from Lakeland. 6'3", 285 pounds, 4-year starter, reps at guard, reps at tackle, big and strong. I mean, this is another guy, gets his hands locked in, can really control a defender. And what I do like is, when the battle between an offensive lineman and defensive lineman, it's not just, sometimes they just win right off the get-go, but sometimes you also have to counter. Right? And when a defensive lineman has a good position on him, he does a great job of countering, whether it's chopping the arms down, using defensive lineman's leverage against them. You can see some tactical movements here from Kyle up against some defensive linemen. It's not just, using brute force, right? You can see there's some technique there. And again, deserves a spot on this list. Next up, let's talk about offensive lineman Matthew Bentavega, the senior from Mayapack. And he's at the center spot. Strong kid. He's about 5'11", not tall, but 250 pounds, strong. He's able to move people at the point of attack, seal them off with some of his down blocks. So they do like to pull linemen. He shows a strong first step. And to me, I love the nastiness and energy that he plays with. This is a guy who can finish blocks. I thought he held up relatively well versus some of the bigger guys that he went up against. Again, showing that low center of gravity, showing his leverage, the ability to use his hips, drive his feet, and a powerful offensive lineman, in my opinion, that deserves a spot on this list. Finally, to wrap things off, let's talk about offensive tackle R.J. Peterson, the senior from Somers. 6'4", 255 pounds, an anchor at that right tackle spot. And this is a powerful lineman in the run game, really strong with double teams, really strong with down blocks. He moves defenders at that first level. And he's a good finisher. This is a guy who can bury you. And that's what you want to see in offensive linemen, guys who can not just drive their feet and hips, but finish blocks, right? Take them out of the play. And he does that. And I just like his ability to punish people. But what I do like, he's not the quickest guy, but he still shows the feet that he can pull. He can pull on some of those counter stuffs. He can attack the outside shoulder of those edge defenders. So he has that enough speed that he shows that versatility that it's not just power football for him, that he has the nimbleness, that he can hold up in some pass pro opportunities, get to the outside, block on some of the sweep opportunities, and also pull. So well-rounded to me for this young man, wrapping up the offense. All right, guys, we're going to move now to defense. And again, we'll start with the front seven, which is a mixture of defensive linemen and linebackers, and then go to the back end, which is a mixture of corners and safeties. And then we also have a kicker that we're going to give for Section 1A. A kicker and punter are special teamers. First off, let's start on the D-line. And I want to start with Jack McKinney, the senior from Brewster. Absolutely deserves a spot on this list. 6'3", super disruptive. He wins with strength. He wins with energy. I mean, this is a guy who, the bigger lineman, he can turn the corner on. The smaller lineman, he could just outpower you. And I just love the effort that he plays with. This is a guy who he's getting doubled, doesn't get to the quarterback. He batted a bunch of balls down. He's got some, gets in the quarterback's window. Also special teamer, man. He has a couple pump blocks as well. This is a guy who can impact you in multiple different ways. Definitely one of the more disruptive defensive linemen that I watched on tape, and he definitely deserves a spot on this list. Next up, defensive lineman Jaron Faulkner, the senior from Somers. And Somers last year, they liked to rotate a bunch of guys, but when you watch them, he stood out. I mean, this young man, 6'1", 230 pounds, really wins with his get off. He's got a strong first step that he can beat those slower linemen, and even the smaller linemen. He shows that he's got that get off that he can beat even the smaller, faster linemen. This is a guy who's not small, right? He shows some of that power, but really did a good job with his movement of creating penetration, making it difficult, taking up linemen so that the linebackers can make plays because of his disruption. This is a well-rounded defensive tackle that wins using his speed and his get-off, and he deserves a spot on this list. Next up, defensive lineman Rocco Laurie, the senior from Yorktown. 5'10", 230 pounds, powerful, man, compact. Really does a good job using his leverage. He's a really good wrestler. Spoke with him at Media Day, and you could see that out on the football field. Could really control linemen with his hands, with his leverage, with his power. And, you know, it's not just that, right? He's got a good first step. I mean, there you see some strong reps of him bursting off that line of scrimmage, getting into the backfield, making plays, and that has nothing to do with his strength. It has to do with his get-off. He's got a strong first step here, was very disruptive for Yorktown last year, and I think he deserves a spot on this year's list. Next up, we have defensive lineman Peter Telesco, the senior from Eastchester. Good athlete here, 6'2", three-sport guy, right? Lacrosse, basketball, football, and you can see that with his feet. This is another guy who made a ton of big plays out on the edge for Eastchester, who had a strong defense, and he was a big part of it. His ability to be very disruptive, to use his athleticism to beat linemen, but also showing the strength that he can hold up against some of these bigger guys, especially on that edge spot. And he deserves a spot on this list. Next up, we have kind of this hybrid defensive lineman, outside linebacker, Justin Soroti, the senior from Fox Lane. 6 foot, 180 pounds, and I tell you what, when you watch Fox Lane tape, this young man really stood out. I love the explosiveness that he plays with, his ability to finish tackles, set the edge. He was definitely someone that really popped off tape, and I really like that he had reps at defensive end with his hand down, standing up as an outside linebacker, and I think just really strong against the run. And he's just not hesitant. I mean, this is a guy who comes with a lot of force, and if he's going to make a mistake, he's going at 100 miles an hour. And he made some big plays for this defense, and he definitely was someone who stood out. And I think he's one of the better defensive players in the class if he continues to grow, and he deserves a spot on this list. All right, next up, let's talk about linebacker Brett Kennedy, the senior from Somers. This young man had over 80 tackles, 5 sacks, 4 interceptions, well-rounded linebacker. He shows the ability, again, in the run game, finding the proper angles to the running back, does a good job of shadowing, reading what's in front of him, times his blitzes well, and finishes, and then also that ability, 4 INTs. He can read the quarterback, drop into the proper windows while reading the quarterback, get into his zones quickly. He shows the elusiveness, the elusive hips that he can do that. Right, so a well-rounded linebacker, one of the better defensive players coming back this year, and he deserves a spot on this list. Next up, Dylan Burbridge, the linebacker senior from Eastchester. And this young man was really good, and he's a quarterback too, so you know the toughness here. He's got to play a quarterback spot, plays the linebacker spot. Really liked watching him. 23 tackles for loss last year and 5 sacks, and he can really hit you. This is a young man who shows he's got the range in the run game, the toughness to bang around inside the tackle box, and the athleticism that he can run to the sideline. Right, it's not just an in-tackle linebacker, even though, again, they really like him getting after, you mentioned the 5 sacks, they want to send him, get after the quarterback. To me, a very strong linebacker here, tough, gritty, can really hit you, and really a leader on the defensive side. Really liked watching him on tape as well. He definitely deserves a spot on this list. Next up, we have Marco Marisi, the senior from Harrison. He had over 50 tackles and 3 sacks last year. He gets reps mostly at the outside linebacker spot, has reps also at the inside linebacker spot, showed that versatility that he can do it, but he did a really good job of setting the edge. And this is another young man who can get out into his zones. It's not just a run defender, but he had positive reps as a pass defender as well. To me, another strong, defender that can do multiple things. And that's a big thing for me, is versatility. Being great at one thing is one thing, but being able to do multiple things, I think that's what the most value is. And this is a young man who can do that. Again, a good finisher out in space with tackling, able to disengage blockers, strong, physical, deserves a spot on this list. Next up, kind of this hybrid strong safety linebacker, outside linebacker, Nigel Strazzini, the senior from Rye. And this guy is a human missile. He loves to be played in that slot. This is a guy who real timely with his blitzes can really punish you, set the edge, make plays out in space. I just love the aggression that this young man plays with. Again, can really thump you, really cause negative plays. And again, jamming guys out in coverage, getting to his zone, I think he can also do. But I just love his ability in the run game to be a threat, to cause negative plays using his speed, and a mixture of his speed and power, and deserves a spot out on the edge on this list. Next up, let's talk about defensive back Frankie DeGrazio, the senior from Carmel. And this is not a very big guy at 5'8", but he's a strong tackler in space. Is another very active safety for Carmel, coming back from last year. And I thought he showed some reps in the box, some positive reps in the box, and as a high safety. He takes good angles to the football, disengages, a plus tackler. And I also thought you saw some real strong reps when he drops into coverage. It's not just a run-stopping safety. He'll get into the wide receiver's hips. He was able to run with some of the speedier guys. You saw some positive things out on tape, and I actually think he deserves a spot on this list. And as we continue, guys, let's talk about Jason Krupe, the junior from Harrison. The cornerback was, in the beginning, super raw for Harrison, but you saw he's got good ball skills. You see he's a good athlete, even though he's raw in his technique. There is a lot there to like. Solid size to him. He'll come up. He can tackle. I again mentioned I love his ball skills where he had a couple INTs where he plays the ball through the receiver. And this is another young man to keep an eye on. Now, you can see a big growth here as a defensive back, but I do think, based on what I saw, he deserves a spot on this list in the defensive backfield. Finally, to wrap it all off, we have Aiden Swan, the senior from Nyack, and this is a playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. Reads things very well for him. He's a strong safety. This is a guy who can make plays. They rely, a lot on him in big moments, and he can answer that. And I do love his ability to read the things right in front of him, react quickly, positive tackler based on tape. And again, when I say positive, it means you see more good than bad, more successes than failures. And I do think he shows that. And not a very big guy, from a thick standpoint, but decent size to him. And again, just like the athleticism mixed with his ability to read out on the edge. And he deserves a spot on this list. And then finally, guys, to wrap it all off, we have our special teamers, and this spot is going to a kicker and punter, Gavin Kelly, senior from Somers, 6'3". He averaged about 40 yards per punt, 64 total points kicking last year, including a long field goal of 47 yards. An impressive special teams player for Somers, does kicking, does punting, impacts special teams in a big way, and he gets that spot. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we appreciate your support. Make sure, if you haven't done so yet, hit that thumbs up, hit that sub button for future content. This is Frank from Fam Sports. We'll see you all very soon.